We are above the Arctic Circle in the Lofoten archipelago in Norway, exploring villages, both new and old, and getting to Norway's Viking past. We woke up to a beautiful day in our little fisherman's cottage here in the Lofoten archipelago. The sun was doing its best to try to sneak through the clouds of the previous day. And so we decided that while the weather was a little sketchy still, we were going to explore Lofoten's Viking past by visiting the Lofoten Viking Museum. So we headed out to the island of Henningsvear that we explored previously, in the little village of Bori. Natural beauty of the Lofoten Islands is just incredible, with snow-speckled mountains, deep bays, beautiful, beautiful farmland and little villages. So any drive anywhere is just beautiful. One of the things I gained appreciation of was the infrastructure of these islands. It makes them a beautiful place to visit. The bridges and tunnels that allow you to drive from one end to the other and connect these small, remote Arctic Circle fishing villages to each other and create kind of a tourist paradise. The Lofoten Viking Museum is located in a little village of Bori outside of Leknes on the island of Henningsvear, kind of in the middle of the archipelago. We've got a beautiful visitor center here, decked out in this beautiful countryside. The site was originally a Viking longhouse remains. It was excavated and they decided to build a recreated Viking longhouse and visitor center along it. Here we are, seeing the Lord and Lady of the Manor, so to speak. This is a Viking era farm, if you will. So a lot of the implements of the Viking period were excavated from the longhouse. Here's some recreated costumes as well from archaeological remains of the workers that might have lived on the farm. And as you see, the showcases give you little bits and pieces both of the luxury and of the work of the Viking era. Here's some beads and some axes. There's a sword in previous case. Here are actually some implements and weights that are used in a spinning of wool, one of the main products that was used in this northerly outpost, and then a small golden tablet that was part of the dedication of the longhouse when it was erected. The museum itself is relatively small but very pedagogical and gives you insight into the Viking era in these northerly outposts. But the most exciting part of this trip is walking out of the visitor center into this beautiful, beautiful valley outside of the village of Bori, and turning as you walk around the edge and getting your first glimpse of this beautiful recreated Viking longhouse. So today, we're checking out a Viking longhouse at the Bori Viking Museum. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
As you get closer to the longhouse itself, you start to appreciate the craftsmanship that went into recreating this beautiful structure from local materials using archaeological remains as a guide. Inside, you find a longhouse created with all of the things you would need in Viking era, and docents kind of explaining to you the different things that allowed you to stay warm and happy and healthy and fed, looking at the various kinds of shoes that were used in the Viking era, as well as the stuff you needed to kind of deck out and live out your own Viking fantasies, like a giant Viking bed, and of course costumes to dress in if that's your thing, which of course I never missed a chance to yuck it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay. Which one is this? It says Papa.
That is a huge shield.
That's a lot of gear here.
Recreating the picture from the Viking for a day exhibit.
Here, I'll check this out.
Okay.
Give the camera to mommy. Audrey learns it wasn't easy to be a warrior in the Viking area, trying to pick up a Viking shield and sword. She does a really good job showing that she's got what it takes to be a little mini Viking.
You're good, you're strong. You're good. You're good. 1, 2.
This region of Norway is famous for its stockfish, or dried cod. This is the economic staple that kept things going in this area all even to the current day.
Do you make a spread?
This is heavy.
Spread now. What that is? It's a whalebone.
Whalebone.
Yeah.
That's how
They
you
usually use the
go.
whalebone.
Yep, I see that. You would make the weaving sword out of a whalebone.
Does this actually work?
So as we explore the longhouse further in, we notice that you not only can dress up like a Viking, but you can eat like a Viking too. Inside the longhouse, they have a hearth where they're cooking some Viking lamb stew with vegetables. And if you choose to, you can eat a little small meal and kind of get a taste of what it was like to live in the Viking era. It's tight. Visiting the site's a lot of fun, and well, you know, I got a chance to play Viking Lord for a moment and show that I would be a firm and just ruler. As you dive into the last section of the Viking Longhouse, you learn a little bit more about the world of myths and legends and storytelling. You see a tapestry that's been lovingly recreated along the walls. Remind me of the Bayeux Tapestry in France that talked about the Norman invasion of England. But also there's a recreation of a boat burial site, as well as a place where the docents talk to you about the mythology of the Viking world and the different worlds and the Yggdrasil, the tree of life, and how it all fits together, as well as a little display of woodworking and wood carving from the Viking era. This wood carving has continued on to the current day to recreate the structure, but is also present in a lot of the stave churches that you see as Norway was Christianized after the Viking era. So the grounds of the Viking Museum are quite large, so not only do you have the Longhouse and the Visitor Center, you have the original excavation site, and I'll talk a little bit about it in a second here. So we're here at the Lofoten Viking Museum. It's a reconstructed longhouse. Actually, here's the original archaeological site, just a couple meters outside of the construction. Pretty amazing job they did reconstructing it. All sorts of docents inside, feeding people Viking food, showing how to do Viking crafts. It's pretty cool stuff. And if it wasn't enough to see how Vikings lived indoors in these beautiful longhouses, which were kind of communal homes for a farm community, as you can see, this farm was situated in a beautiful, beautiful location in the valley around the village of Bori. What do you think of the Viking Museum so far?
It was really cool.
Yeah, what are we doing now?
We are walking to the boat.
So they have some reconstructed Viking boats.
Yep.
Let's look at.
Mhm.
Check them out.
Yeah.
As you leave the longhouse and follow a trail, you you encounter some of the local horses that are very similar to the Icelandic horses that we saw previously in the trip in Iceland. Horses were, of course, a major animal in the Viking era, allowing transport, also allowing warfare and helping work the fields. It also blows me away that they could actually take these horses in the longboats as they settled in all of the North Atlantic area. The museum has some fun kids activities and kids at heart activities where you get to learn how to shoot a bow and arrow.
Good job.
Audrey was a born natural at this. I still got a little bit of archery skills, but I think Audrey bested me in the end.
Self-face.
Audrey really took to throwing axes quite naturally. She was a good mark. She had a little more spin there than she got. And of course, I had an opportunity too to throw the metal axes at the target and have a little good time yucking it up and enjoying the experience of Viking as a day.
Nice, Papa.
Cool highlights of the museum is actually getting to cruise out on the lake here in a Viking era ship, but as you can see, the crew that were manning this ship were having a little bit of a rough day in the windy weather, and as we approached the area, we almost witnessed a near capsizing, as you see it there, of the Viking ship. They were able to get it under control and take the tour out, but we opted not to take a cruise in the Viking ship for, well, obvious reasons. It's not as epic without the sails, is it?
They're just walking across. You got it, Victoria.
We are well above the Arctic Circle here in the Lofoten archipelago, but as you can see, the relatively warm weather and wet weather and endless sunlight of the summer has allowed these beautiful, beautiful meadows and flowers to spring out. And you can only imagine what it was like to work this land, to produce your food and grain, and collect all of that stuff you need to survive the winters in this area during the Viking era. What a beautiful place to build a longhouse and run a farm. I can only imagine what it was like to live there in the past. As we headed back to our cottage, we drove along these beautiful roads, and like I said, you really can't take a bad picture in the Lofoten archipelago. Every turn is a beautiful, epic scene, and of course the bridges link together the islands and are fun to drive over and enjoy the water. And well, we just enjoyed this wonderful day exploring the Viking heritages of the Lofoten area. up this morning and wanted to explore one of the nearby fishing villages, Henningsvear. These villages were actually kind of company towns in their day, employing the fishermen to fish the cod and process the cod into stockfish, which is then dried and sold, well, pretty much around the world. You could find people purchasing dried cod to cook as far as Latin America and Brazil, making bacalhau. And when we were in Italy, we actually had fried Italian fish and chips that was based upon the dried cod from places like Lofoten. But these were actually company towns where the workers would basically pay to live in the village and basically have to shop at the company store, stay in company housing, and were contracted to work for the fishing season, you know, up until the turn of the century. So that's kind of the way it was set up. Very similar to coal towns in the United States in the same era. Nowadays, Henningsvear is still an active fishing port as we explore this little town. Quite famous recently for its amazing soccer pitch for the village, one of the most northerly public soccer pitches available. But you can see the racks there where they dry the stockfish. Henningsvear, while it has its cute little shops and cafes, is actually an active port and active fishing village for the season. Now, the fishing season is basically in February and March, where they do a lot of the cod catching and drying, but in the summer it's filled with tourists that just kind of soak up the ye old shanty charm. As you can tell, it doesn't disappoint. Henningsvear is a beautiful, beautiful town, full of lots of painted houses, beautiful boats. Well, it's pretty epic. So you think?
Victoria?
Like so simple.
Became quite fascinated with these racks that they use to dry the cod. You can only imagine what it's like when they're fully stocked with the season's catch, drying out in the cool and dry polar air. Here is the famous soccer pitch. It's made of AstroTurf. You can see some kids out there kicking around the footy, having a good time, and of course, you turn around the other way, you can see the beautiful village of Henningsvear. head back to the soccer pitch, we are gifted with a beautiful, beautiful view as the clouds clear a little bit. You can see the mountains that surround this beautiful fishing village. We head in the car and head back home. A lovely day. We spend the rest of the afternoon just kind of chilling out. But before we left, we stopped and got the obligatory fika.